Fine. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Committee on City Operations to order. And reflect starting time of 4 o'clock. We do have Councilman Cost here. Mr. Jackson will not be attending, so in his absence, I will chair the meeting. With that being said, we are in the minutes of November 20th, 2024. Councilman Cost.
I move the minutes as written.
Motion on the floor, further discussion. Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It takes us to 4. I'm going to make an assumption, and if I'm wrong, let me know. Folks in the audience, I'm assuming that you are here to speak specifically to a item on the agenda. Correct? Okay, perfect. So what we will do is when we get to those respective items that you are here, we'll bring you to the table and speak. That takes us to item 5, discussion action item B. This is the resolution claim appeal number 2064. C Warren 524 Avon Street 755. I believe you're here for this.
Yeah, again, I have no knowledge of the case. I was just told as the owner I need to be here, and my tenant Colette should be on.
And she's on? Okay.
Yeah, she's on team.
So what we're going to actually do though is we're going to go to our Economic Development and Planning Department first. They're going to give us the staff report with regard to this particular piece. Then we will talk to the Planning Review Committee, and then we will open it up for you all. Okay. All right, Mr. Montre, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so this violation occurred on 11/15 with a compliance date of 11/22 upon reinspection. The rechecked the property was actually on 12/1 of 23. The violations were still present. In this case, that's trash. It was then submitted to the contractor for abatement, who then arrived on 12/4, so significantly past the typical 7 days for abatement. And the violations were still present and they were removed. Proper notice was given, and there's ample amount of time to correct the issue.
Sure. Yeah, and we do see in the packet that the correction notices did go out to both the occupant as well as the owner. In terms of, just real quick, in terms of the invoice, again, we have the issue, right, where it says Eric's Refuse, but then contractor, with regards to the actual code officer report, says Crutcher. Is that the same, or is that the same? It's not. It's not the same. Eric's Crutcher. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. The thing I wanted to ask though, on the invoice, underneath, where you have each thing itemized, you have the 12/4, 2056 yards and Castillo. Does that just mean that they were reauthorized on that date and she was the one that authorized them? Because I think the original authorization was, so that's what that means. How that was. I just wanted to make sure the call was made, the reauthorization occurred. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing that out. What I'll do in future claims is ensure and then add that to the code officer's notes with the claim review committee.
Perfect. Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Montre?
I don't believe so.
Lots of pictures or.
Just having a hard time with that photo being 6 yards.
For the back of the truck.
Yeah.
Right. Tires are clearly visible.
Yeah.
So there was obviously itemized speech of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then Lisa, are you able to speak to?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. This was heard at Claims Review Committee. The tenant and the owner were present, and the vote was to deny the claim.
Other notes?
Nothing significant, nothing to note.
Felt that the process was followed and
Correct.
stuff was abated?
It
Correct.
looks like they actually waited a couple of months.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. All right. And so on the phone we have, is it Miss Colette?
Last name Warren.
Warren, I'm sorry.
Colette Warren.
Colette Warren, okay. Ms. Warren, if you want to talk to us a little bit about why you are appealing, we're all ears, and then we may have a couple of follow-up questions for you.
Okay. I am appealing this case. During the time of this incident, I was in and out of the hospital with COVID. I contacted the inspector, Amy, at the time to get verification on what it need to be debris. told me she didn't have time to go through the itemized statement of everything that she needed to do. So at that time, I had called someone to come out and look into my backyard. I paid them $150. They got the debris out of the thing. When I contacted her again to see if she could come out to check and see if everything was done, I share a driveway and a backyard with my neighbor. When I had the committee hearing, I discussed with them the items that they have in the pictures. Those aren't the items that they picked up. So I don't know if that was her side of the property or what.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, I can't.
All right, anything else, Ms. Warren, for us to consider?
Your mic went out, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anything else you would like us to consider before we begin deliberations?
No, that is all.
Councilman Costa, you have any questions? Wants to get information.
Don't.
What I'm picking up.
I guess I'm confused because she said that she had someone come out and clean it up.
Right.
So, do we know anything about that, Nick? If it was different trash when they came back out?
You know, firsthand, I do not. I mean, as I look at this violation letter, I can see trash found in boxes, barrels. I can see paper glass, deteriorated metal product, junk tires, brush and tree limb debris. And if you take a look at the photos that were submitted, you can see evidence of such items.
May I add something? Because
Yeah, come on up. Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
again, I looked at the photos and, Brian, I think you brought it up a little bit. It doesn't look like 6 cubic yards. I mean, that truck bed is kind of empty. You know, and I know 3 yards is the minimum, so, you know, whether there is or there isn't, that's what we get charged for.
Right.
But
Right. And I think that's a fair question.
Yeah.
You know, I think to the point of the claims review committee, I think, you know, most everything was followed, right?
Yeah.
To a T here. But the question is, I think that was your original concern, is that 6 cubic yards.
And we've seen fuller trailers that are 6.
Right.
And I realize that it's, not necessarily, but it's all compacted down, but still,
Right.
And
I don't want to tell you what to do with your motion, but if that was a consideration you wanted to look at, you would still be charging the 300 for the, that's the minimum fee. And then there is 4 tires. That's clear. So you're looking at reducing by $90.
I would be fine moving this. First, I have a question. Nick, what do we do to make sure that, like, for example, Eric's, that, when they say there's 6 yards, that there's 6 yards there?
That's a great question. Obviously, we rely on Eric's knowledge and his trade to be accurate in his assessment of garbage that he is abating.
And I'm not putting blame here. I just, I look at that picture and it calls into question, what is 6 yards? That looks more like 3.
Yeah, and I'm not certain if that trash bin is full or not.
Especially if you take the timing, because they are being charged separately for the tires, right? So you take the tires out of there. That's really looking like,
Yeah.
It's absolutely clear that they did go to the property, that they did abate things that were clearly a violation of our code. But I also struggle, when I first looked at this, I think it was yesterday, 60 years to my. So it's up to you.
I'd make a motion to, remove the $90 to make the total balance 400.
You're essentially granting a partial, right?
Yes,
amount of
partial.
90. So what we're going to do is deny the additional 665. Correct? So that is a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries.
What was that total amount?
665.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much. Yep. That takes us to, it actually, B, or C, D, and E all deal with same property, same claimant. So we'll start with resolution claim appeal number 2112, a priest 4417 Ballard Road for $475. This was board up fees for Pro Soil. Mr. Matra.
Yeah, quite simply, this property, code officer, premise officer at the time was on site. It was not secured. From the photos, you can clearly see a missing door, as well as the frame and jam and everything else that goes along with it. So this is obviously an issue that needs to be corrected.
All right, and you are Alexander?
Yes, sir.
Alexander Priest.
Yep.
All right. A letter from the Claims Review Committee on this 10/16/2024. What was do you know the date, Lisa, of that year?
October 10th was the date of the Claims Review Committee meeting.
And then did you have anything to add?
No, for this one, the committee recommended denial of the board up claim.
Did you have any questions, Councilman Cost for Mr. Rogers?
No.
All right, Mr. Priest, you have the floor.
Hello, City Council.
So let's just do this one for now. Just
Okay,
two.
that's
1, 2.
fine. I
Yep,
got
go
no
ahead.
problem doing that. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me come talk to you guys. I'm not asking for complete forgiveness here. I understand that we did have a board up. I'm here just to argue that I think it's a little excessive. I'm not able to fully make an appeal on all the board ups due to the fact that I did not know that after the taxes are issued after so long, they get kind of mingled in, and then there's no ability to argue them. So I'm just here to argue this one, even though I would like to argue all 4 or 5. If you guys can see here, this is the window that was boarded up. It is 1 foot by 1 foot. There is a board that is running through the middle of it. It's physically impossible for anybody to fit through this window. That's even granted me, I'm 120 pounds. I can tell you, I cannot physically fit through this window. I understand that you guys have to board up stuff, and there's a running cost of about $220 that the city's gonna charge no matter what, and everything after that is up to the contractor at that point. But I just feel like this 1 foot by 1 foot section that went over this window, charging $220 for about 5 minutes of work, I think is excessive. That's just the argument I wanted to make about that. I don't have anything else to say, and that was all.
Appreciate that. Councilman Cost, do you have any questions for Mr. Priest?
I do not.
All right. Do you have thoughts or motion on this item?
On this issue, I would move to deny. Full.
I would have to agree. The administration did occur, looking through the packet, it occurred, and there's a reason that there's an admin fee. And the other thing is per code, I mean, that is considered open and accessible. So when the contractor, per contract goes out, the city incurs a cost. So what we're trying to do is recoup that so that other taxpayers essentially aren't paying for your board of your property. So there's just not a lot of cause, I don't think, for this body to approve on this particular appeal. So with that being said, there's a motion on the floor for the discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That takes us to item, claim appeal 2111, for, again, the same claimant, Mr. Priest, 4417 Ballard Road. And this one is the amount of $1,050 in red tag monitoring fees. Mr. Montre.
Yeah, this is 2111, you said?
Yes.
Okay, I know that there was some, gotta make sure I got the correct one here. Yeah, so I mean, the long and short of it is with this property being placed on the NEAT team, you know, we have a procedure in place to where we monitor these properties monthly, one, to ensure that the properties are secured, check for trash, grass, things of that nature. And this is one of those properties that's on that list. And, you know, with that being said, you know, it's also a property with multiple enforcement actions against it as well. And so, I mean, I would have to, you know, deny the request to waive any attendance, monitoring fees.
Mr. Cost, any questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Lisa, did you have any add-ons?
No, the claims review committee,
Same date, October 10th?
yeah, these all were heard on the same day at claims review.
Okay.
On this one, they made a recommendation to deny in full.
All right, seeing no questions, Mr. Priest, you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember, this is just the red tag fees.
Yeah, Adam, actually, I called you about this, probably a few months, it was probably about 6 months ago.
You call me on my cell phone.
Yeah, I actually set up a meeting with you about this exact issue, where you referred me over to the director of the building department to help me with it. Hopefully, some of you are familiar with the city inspector you have of the name of Larry Conley. He recently retired. He was a city official for a very long time in the city of Lansing. Larry was at the end of his career when I unfortunately had to interact with him. I understand that there's a monthly red tag fee, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I don't think the amount of red tag fees that we've incurred were necessary. And it's solely due to Larry Conley and the way that he is just the negligence and the way that he's been operating in the building department. And I would love to show you guys exactly what we've encountered with him. I've done everything from talk to supervisors. I set up a meeting with Adam. I tried to set up a meeting with the mayor. And really, we bought this house in October of last year. We did some demo, and there was a non-permitted, or there's a notice put on the door that we were working without a permit. We had the permit submitted for a week and a half. We were just waiting approval when we started making some emergency repairs to the property. Possibly got off the wrong foot with Larry based on that. However, from February to August of this year, Larry has done nothing but stall and not do his job at the building department. I have multiple emails here. I would love to show you guys of where we've requested Larry to just give us a list of what needs to get fixed for the framing of the house. That was it. I have 3 separate emails here that I can show you guys of where we just made simple requests to Larry. Hey, can you please give us a full list? Can you please give us a full list? Larry's response was that he sent out a notice to us that detailed all of those corrections that needed to get made. If you actually look at the notice that was sent out by Larry, about 3/4 down the page, it says, more than what can be described is either installed in a manner that does not meet minimum code or is in failure. Therefore, what Larry basically did is he provided a list of what he felt like doing. And then he put a clause in there that said, hey, there's too much at this property. I can't give you a full list. I've done about 25 houses. Every city inspector I've ever worked with has been able to provide me with a full list of framing that needs to get repaired in the property. If Larry sits here and he doesn't provide us with that list, it leaves me and Ben almost at a situation where we have to guess what needs to get fixed in this house. There was some stuff on there. That was all correct. But Larry just failed to provide us lists. We asked for it 3 separate times via email. He did not give it to us. And then I have an hour and 20-minute video of a framing inspection that we did with Larry. It was recorded. He did not know it was recorded. And in that video, we asked Larry to provide us a list. And this is his response. This is during a framing inspection here. We asked Larry to provide us a list, and this was his answer.
Generalized. What I had hoped that saw an assessment.
So what Larry just said there is that he got a structural engineer report back, and it was more generalized than what he wanted. It wasn't as in-depth that he wanted.
So,
How much did they say?
A minute, just a minute.
spent 3 hours here. And it sounds going to.
So right there, Ben asked Larry for a list of all the framing that needed to get fixed. Larry literally just sat there and said that we'd spend 3 hours going through the house. He doesn't have that type of time. That's our 4th request for this list.
Right.
It's made it impossible. From February to April of that year, Larry just put us through the ringer of about 148 different emails, all of which John Snyder, Larry's boss, went through. Okay, and thank God Larry finally retired. A new city inspector comes in, his name is Corey. Corey's an absolute all-star. He's the best hired in the building department that has probably been made in there in the last 10 years. Corey's a little bit closer to my age. He actually cares about his job. He went in there. He's the only person to actually come up with any solutions or anything like that. I can tell you from the point of when Corey was hired, it took us 2 weeks to get past all the framing, all the insulation. It's a realistic timeline. Whereas with Larry, we had just spent 6 to 8 months going through all this, just turning over loose-ended stones. I'm more than willing to show you guys all the emails, all the videos. I even have a video in here where Larry says.
No, I think the point's made. I think, Mr. Madry, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted, that's what we have the Building Board of Appeals for. Right. So that'd be the correct forum to bring grievances such as that against an inspector. If you disagree with an inspection, that would be the correct place to have those discussions. That's what the Building Board is there for. I think it's important to note that, I'm looking at all these permits, they're either expired or suspended. He was correct in stating that, Larry's been gone for quite some time from the city. There doesn't appear to be a lot of movement since Larry's
That's
left.
absolutely false. I can show you.
Let's make sure we respect the fact that he has employees.
Yeah, well, if you're doing work right now, you don't have any open permits, so they're expired or suspended.
The reason that all those permits are suspended or expired is due to the fact of how long Larry's taken to do everything. I've had continuous conversations with Corey at the building department. By having my HVAC inspection here at the end of the week, I have an electrical inspection at the end of the week. From the time over the course of the last 2 months, I've gone from a completely empty house that all the framing was exposed. And I can actually show you guys some pictures of where it's done. Everything's completely done. I'm doing a punch out list right now. All the cabinets are installed, flooring painted, everything's drywalled, all the finished work's done. The only thing that literally has to get done is you got to put some cabinets or countertops over the cabinets, so you do butcher block and then a sink. That's literally it. I had planned on having the house listed by, I'm gonna wait until after New Year's because it just doesn't make sense to list it before.
When did you, and I'm sorry, when did you purchase this property?
In October of 2023, maybe September. Say
When
that
you
time.
purchased it,
Maybe even
did
August.
you know at the time of purchase, the responsibilities that come with
Oh,
red
absolutely.
tape property?
Yeah,
This isn't the first home plan.
no, this is not my first. My buddy Ben, he's my business partner.
Right.
He's built about 60 homes.
Okay.
I've remodeled about 30. We had a lot of experience with a lot of building departments. I've never ran into any issues like this, but
Right.
from total time of when I've actually been able to work till now, it's taken me about 3 to 4 months to get this house completely done. It's very, very heavy renovation. about $140,000 in the house.
Councilman Cost, go ahead.
So are you flipping houses? Is that what this is?
I do primarily rentals.
Okay.
This house was, the initial plan of it was to be a rental, but due to the carrying costs that I've had to cover from Larry, which is roughly about $10,000, because about my carrying cost monthly is about $1,750 a month, give or take, including taxes, insurance, the interest on my loans that I had to borrow, all that, about $1,750. So I'm about $10,000 into this. It's made it impossible to make this a rental. I would love to. It's a great piece of property to do so, but I unfortunately have to flip it due to those costs that have been incurred from this.
Well, you bought this, what did you say? You bought it in September?
Yeah, roughly in
Okay.
2023.
I show it in July,
Yep,
July 21st of 2023.
yep.
You bought it for 16.5. What did you think you were buying at 16.5? I mean,
A house that needed to be heavily renovated.
and it came with red tag fees.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that.
And in total, that property has 23 violations, going back a couple of years. 9 of them have been since you've been the property owner.
I totally understand. I can explain that as well.
You know, I get what you're saying, and I hear you, and I get it. But when we're looking here at the permits that are expired, canceled, it's been over multiple years. When we're looking at all these board ups that this property has had, you knew this history when you came into it. It was need on safe. Let me see, 2019. So it had been need on safe for going on almost 6 years now. You know, I understand what you're saying, but we have a fee that's charged. And you purchased a home that had that fee on there. You know, unfortunately, that is something that we didn't always enforce religiously, and we are now. And, you know, I looked at the pictures of this property. It still looks boarded up. There's, you know, windows missing, doors boarded up. The exterior looks terrible. And that's a photo from a year ago. I understand you don't feel that our department has moved as quickly as they need to, and I'm sure well aware that there's issues. But as far as the red tag fee, I'm not inclined to give anyone back their fee. You knew what you were buying. I mean,
Yes.
I get what you're saying, but I just can't get around the fact that, you know, we all knew what, if I went out and did the same thing or anybody else on this table did it, we would know what we're getting ourselves into.
Yes.
I mean, when I bought my house, I looked at the, you know, property taxes, you know, is there any problems here? So, you know, I understand that you're frustrated, but what my suggestion would be is to get a hold of Nick or Raleigh at the EDP department, and to you know, figure out the right path forward with those issues with the inspector, through the building appeals board. But talk to these guys, so you know, it sounds like you're almost to the finish line. You know, if you can communicate with code, you know, you could be done with it, it sounds like.
Yeah. Can I just touch on this, the subject we were talking about?
Yeah, quickly, because we still have to get to your next claim. Go ahead.
I don't think it's fair that we bring up the last 6 years, because I haven't owned that property before, like August or September of 2023. I understand they have a bunch of violations. I can't be held accountable for those. I understand that I've had 9 violations. The reason that I've had 9 violations is because I haven't been receiving notices from you guys in the mail. I've seen the notices you've sent out. I see that they've been sent. I'm telling you guys, I have not been receiving them. That was on me. I totally understand. I had to incorporate a new system in my process where every Monday I call your building department. I ask about the 4417 Ballard. I call them every Monday. Ask them, hey, is everything in compliance with you guys? That's what I had to do after, you know, we started racking up notices. I just didn't know they were there. I had no idea. So I apologize for that. That's the correction I've made on that going forward. I understand you saw the picture of it from a year ago. I can show you a video of it right now where it's fully remodeled outside, inside, in its current condition. The reason it was like that a year ago is because Larry was holding me up. And it didn't make any sense for me to work on the property at all, because Larry's comments he kept making to me was that this would be a great lot when this building gets torn down.
To his point about getting with Raleigh, getting with Nick, I actually do recall the conversation. I recall, and I believe I said this, that if this was going to at some point come before our body, it would be inappropriate for me to talk to you. So I really felt that you should be talking to the Director of Economic Development and Planning, right? Prior to getting to us, to this point.
Yes.
Did you actually ever, and I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, did you ever connect with the Director of Economic
After our
Development?
conversation,
Yes.
That we had on the phone, you
Right.
said that you would get me connected with him.
Oh, I thought I gave you the contact information. Is it you?
Regardless,
Okay.
I have 140 email chain,
Right.
the whole building department.
Okay.
Raleigh's tagged on all of it. He's been tagged on all of it this entire time. So he's been well aware, and we've actually talked to
But
him.
I just think, Alex, I think the concern is with us, what we have to look at, and I think Ryan was fair when he talked about the 6 years of enforcement and the fact that he's just looking at the last 9, the fact that there's been 9 since
Yeah,
December of
I take full
2023.
accountability.
Yeah, right. And then, the fact that you knew, and obviously you understand the red tag process, you understand the fee that's associated with that. We know due to some of the enforcement action that has taken place since that, the actual 360s are happening. We actually have premise officers that are going out, they're doing that, they're engaging that work, they're engaging in that work. There's a cost to that, right?
Yeah.
So there's just, with all due respect, in terms of what we do here as part of this committee, there's just nothing here for us to say, yeah, we can say, I mean, it's exactly the same reason why the claims review committee said no, right?
Okay.
So I believe there's going to be a motion to deny. I mean, right, I don't know what you're doing. Go ahead.
I would make a motion to deny.
And I would have to support it because again, with regard to this committee and what we consider, they're just not cause, right, to grant the appeal. So with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Absent takes us to the last one, Mr. Montry, on the trash fees. This is $2,309.
Yeah, so regarding this claim, again, the trash was there was proper time, well, he's stating that he's not receiving the correction notices or violations, and so that is unfortunate. However, they were mailed, they were served properly. Upon reinspection, the violation still was there. Again, this was cited on 124, and was rejected on 2A. And the violation was still existed. So, with that being said, the trash or garbage debris, if you will, was abated accordingly. With that comes the cost of abatement.
All right. Ms. Hand?
Yes, so the Claims Review Committee met again, this was on October 10th. In looking at everything, it's my understanding that the Claims Review Committee felt that there perhaps was not enough photographic evidence to support the entire amount. They voted to grant an adjustment of $320, so roughly 10 yards. Making the total amount due $2,309. So the original amount was $2,620.
Yeah. Because Alex is here today, he appealed that decision.
Correct.
Mr. Cos, we'll go to Mr. Priest. Any questions?
No.
All right, Alex, go ahead.
All right, first, not negating with you guys that trash wasn't picked up. It was. I understand we're a separate fee due to that, and it's totally understandable. However, I do think the fee is excessive, and these are the reasons why. Firstly, I would just love to run with you guys the amount of trash that is there. So here's one trash pile. There's really 2 big trash piles. So this picture, sorry. This picture right here is from the street. You guys can see that there is a trash pile right here. I I have a lot of experience with trash pickup, just because I've probably done about 50 to 60 dumpsters in my career. I can tell you that's probably about 8 yards of trash. And here is the other pile here. Mostly pallets, a little bit of wood in there. There's a hot water heater. I can tell you that's roughly about 3 yards of trash. And then there was also right here, the last piles, which was just some metal ducting. The committee ruled that the amount of trash that I was billed for, which was 30 yards, was excessive, and they took me down to 15, which I feel is fair. My issue with that is that they didn't really address the labor of this. So you had so what was issued for the contractor was 5 hours of work and 30 yards of trash. They only fixed one of those things. And really, all of this comes down to, even about that very first thing you guys did, is you have somebody at the building department that is over calculating the amount of yards and the amount of time they'll take. That is the sole issue out of here, even addressing his issue, 100%. So these 4 guys showed up to this job. They had a trash compactor no less than 1 foot away from one of the trash piles. And the other one, they had a dumpster here. They had a dumpster here that they put the other trash pile in. As you guys can see, this individual walked into this trash receptacle here, and it is barely full. This is the argument I made last time. These guys were very well equipped with, just the supplies they had. They had garbage bins to load up to put into the trash. They had an actual trash compactor truck. They had shovels. They had 4 individuals. They were well equipped for this job, probably over equipped in my opinion. And then here are pictures of it obviously cleaned up. Just asking you guys all a question personally.
Right.
Picking up these piles of trash, how many of these orange Home Depot buckets do you think you could fill per hour? If you were hired to do this job and pick up the trash.
I get your point.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not gonna.
If you break down the cubic footage of the trash that was there to what was picked up, these 4 individuals picked up 1 of these buckets per hour. That was the pace that they billed this at. It just makes no sense to me. That's the issue. I understand the trash has been reduced. It was fairly done that. I'm just asking for the labor cost to get reduced as well. I don't think there's any way that you had 4 individuals come up here, pick up 1 of these orange buckets per hour, and it take them 5 hours. I think it's excessive.
Right, so you
And
think
that's what I'm trying to argue with you
so you
guys.
think the cubic yards being charged is excessive, you think the time essentially outside.
Yes,
is excessive.
I understand that
Nope,
these guys
I
have,
think we got it, I think we got it. But I think what we have to do now is we have to,
Yeah.
as a committee,
absolutely.
take a look at the evidence, consider the conversation we played with the new committee. And then if we have other questions, we'll certainly ask. Councilman Goss.
Yeah, Lisa, how did you guys come up with that 320?
That's a good question. I do not have that information.
I would assume they did, if you look at city class 2 construction material after 3, what they did was essentially took 10 of those 27 out. Yeah.
Yes. I thought you were asking how they landed on 10.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
It's not hard.
So essentially what they were saying is that they do believe this is 20 cubic yards of waste. And they do believe that, this is 5 hours of labor total, right? You have the first hour, then you have 4 additional.
That's the one I read it.
Was this a 4-man crew? Or was it a 5-man crew? Do we know?
I do not know. No, I don't want to
Because just so folks understand, if it was a 4-man crew out there, and they completed this in 45 minutes, then you are charged 4 hours. You charge 1 hour for each person out there. So that's how that.
Well, I would agree with the claims review on the 320 relief. Also, to be fair, and to be equal to how I've ruled on these things. We again don't have any photos from day of in here when it was cited for this trash. So I would be willing to grant the $265 admin fee on top of the 320, which would take the total to $2,044. I think and this isn't a dig on anybody, but I think when we get these, that we should have a complete packet
Right.
here.
And I think,
So
and I think there's.
we can do this without a shadow of doubt.
And I think the leadership within that department, they've expressed, that
Yes.
there's some parts of the process that they know they need to clean up just a bit. I don't think anybody's questioning that these things happened. Things were abated, et cetera. But because there's that 265 admin fee, we want to make sure that things are tightened up just a bit. So let me make sure I understand. So the motion on the floor is to grant, partial grant in the amount of 585. And then the denial would be in the amount of 2,044. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And so all of these, for our folks that are here, all of these will be considered before the full body on December 16th at 7 p.m. out here. So you still have an opportunity, if you're not happy with what happened here, to come and speak before that body. Okay. All right. Do we have any other business before the body? Yes.
Yes, one.
We have the resolution. I forgot that we didn't do anything with this last time. All right. So we have introduction to setting of a public hearing, and then chapter 206, preference for local bidders. I think folks on the committee understand what this is, but there were a couple questions. Those are reflected actually in the meeting minutes. And I think that was primarily for law.
It was the enforcement portion of it.
Yes, yeah, so we talked about, is it a breach of contract, is there, I think Charles was actually here and talked about potential audit clause, and whether that could be added upon invoice. So just curious if you guys had some internal conversations about that, Grace.
So, okay, I mean, the questions that I got were mostly what is the consequence if they don't actually use a local sub? What if they've lied about using local subs and then they don't?
Okay.
What would the consequence be?
Sure.
For the most part, and I'm looking at, for the most part, it's going to turn on what's in the bid package and then what's ultimately in the contract, because it would be difficult by ordinance to declare something a breach of contract. It's got to be in the terms of the contract. I'm looking at, and I've gone through so in most of our bid documents, it's a obvious big no-no to have lied on your bid submission. I mean, that's grounds for automatic denial, rejection, whatever. And some of that is covered by the bid bond that gets submitted. So if we take damages because somebody submits a bid and then we either work on that or rely on that and they misrepresented something, then we can go after the bid bond. If someone were to, and I'll back up, we're talking about really only the situation where we're talking about subcontractor naming. When, I don't know if you guys have read bid submissions for construction, public works. I mean, these bid packets are about 150 to 200 pages long. They have to identify their subs. And if they deviate from that, that's a breach of contract to us. And then we have a contract action against them. And so that's where that would be cured. And the damages that we can get are, we don't exactly, it would never be the case that we could sue to force them to use that subcontractor. We can sue to enjoin them from doing any more work. We can stop payment. There are a lot of things like that, and that's all governed by the contract. So that's in there for the contracts. Usually what would happen is, it would be, I don't know, very inadvisable for somebody to say that they were going to use a subcontractor, not use a subcontractor, and think that they were going to pull it over on us, because then a different section of our ordinance on bidders says we can essentially, when that bidder comes back again, never ever hire them, even if they've submitted an amazing bid. We can say there's a performance under past contracts is a criteria, and that's a big one. If somebody has lied to us, we can say goodbye, you're never coming back. Still, what ordinarily happens is they would come forward and say, for some reason, we can't use this subcontractor. Like, what if the subcontractor stops existing? Or what if I don't know, who knows what happens. They would come forward with a change order. We have to approve the change order. I mean, our office reviews, we review those all the time when something changes from what was in the initial bid package. Actually, Nick knows about these as well. And this process. So I would say that concern is addressed in the bid documents for the most part. And I would recommend that it stay there because our action is always going to be breach of contract because they have to tell us. That's how we.
And I'm comfortable with that, but I think we wanted to make sure that it was covered, that there was remedy. I think it really comes down to them as just one example of the contract administrator, making sure that they're actually monitoring and alerting to the attorney's office. And we don't know that always happens, but at the end of the day, I don't think we on this body can ensure those things.
Sure.
I mean,
that
systems are in place.
The systems are in place. And I'll say, I can't always speak to how every single department within the city behaves. I mean, I can't.
I'm just going to give you an example. We know for a fact, as an example, at one point, there's somebody off, that's fine. But the contract administrator for the contract with United in our parks was not overseeing that the way it should have been over. So we caught a bunch of things that were being violated and have been violated for years. Found that there has never been any stop payments, anything, right? And because of that, we started to, I think, we had a little bit of intensified oversight. So that's all I'm saying.
Sure.
But everything was in place. Unfortunately, the oversight just wasn't there. Okay, that's where that complicated.
Totally understand.
Okay.
From where I experienced this the most, in the context of construction contracts, which the city has many,
Right.
Public service is pretty intense in their compliance with the requirements. So when someone submits a payment, like they check if somebody submits a payment or submits for payment or reimbursement or whatever it would be on a project and they're paying a sub that's not the sub that they said they were going to pay, that's going to get caught. It's usually not an issue because we aren't usually fly specking who the sub is for a reason like this. It's more, is this a licensed contractor to do the work? And if they swap out, McKenzie for whoever, we typically don't actually care. Or if they come and say, they're not here anymore, we're going to switch and use these guys, we say, okay, fine. That doesn't affect anything. I respect that this change is different, but I think purchasing and where this is going to come up most is going to be in construction type contracts, where I think they would, again, we can highlight that as a thing to pay attention to.
And I get the difference. I was just trying to highlight and underscore the fact that
totally.
That matters.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree.
Okay. See you later, Nick. All right. So we have the opportunity to move this if you'd like to, in terms of an introduction setting a public hearing, or do you have more? Sorry.
Do you have to remove it from the table first? Sorry, did
Oh,
this
we
get
did?
tabled
I
at the
can't
last
remember. Did I
meeting?
officially table it?
So annoying.
Sorry.
I did.
I'm kidding.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, so I make a motion to untable this.
All right.
At
At 4:32? No. All right, there is a motion for the body to table it so we can talk about it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. All right.
Yeah, I feel comfortable moving forward with this. The public hearing would be,
It is.
It would be January 13th,
Yeah.
because the first meeting is.
We will move to introduce the set on December 16th or January what?
13th. Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, Brian. There's a motion on the floor for the discussion. Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Both same sign. All right, motion carries. And with that, we're adjourned.
Cool.
What was your question?